Cotton, the fabric that made the modern world, is the first book to trace the history of one of the most global commodities. Cotton is one of the most important materials in today's economy, but also in what we wear. And I always thought that it was a story going back to the Industrial Revolution and Britain in the 18th century. But in reality, it turned out that it has a much longer story, a fascinating story that goes back to India and China and involves very much Asia, but also the Americas, and therefore it's a global story. What is surprising in the history of cotton is the fact that cotton has always been a very large industry worldwide, in India, in China, as well as in Europe, and therefore it's not at all a recent phenomenon, but it goes back millennia. Asia was at the center of cotton textile production simply because the material, the cotton fiber, originated in India, and then its cultivation spread to China and the Middle East. And therefore, Asia had an advantage over other places in the production of this material and textiles. And this is why Asia is still a very important producer of cotton textiles. Cotton is a vegetable fiber that has some important material properties, but it can also be cultivated in very large quantities, something that is not the case with the production of either wool, silk or flax. Originally, cotton was very much seen as a new fiber, and it was seen as a new material. It was soft, it could be washed, and it also took dyes very well. So you could produce very elaborate and colorful type of textiles. And those characteristics explain the success of cotton textiles. Cotton was the first global commodity because it was widely traded in the Indian Ocean before 1500. And after the arrival of European traders, it also started to be traded in the Atlantic and eventually into the Pacific. Europe became the industrial powerhouse of cotton production thanks to mechanization and industrialization of production itself. Although this book also argues for the importance of trade and indeed also the importance of having raw material coming from another continent, that to say the Americas. Cotton was part of the so-called triangular trade, that to say finished cotton textiles were sold in Africa, especially in West Africa, in exchange for slaves that were taken to the Americas, where they cultivated the raw fiber, raw cotton, that then was used in European factories to produce again cotton textiles. This is a book that provides a very long history of one of the most common materials that has shaped our lives. It tries to do so by showing that it isn't just a material used in the West, in Europe and in North America, but has a very long history that essentially connects different parts of the world. So it connects producers in India with consumers in Europe in the early modern period. And still now it connects producers in places like China and consumers in the West. We always think that global commodities are a very recent part of our daily life, but in reality, cotton shows that the exchange of commodities worldwide has a very long history. And so this book tried to trace that in order to understand how we arrived to the present day globalized economy.